Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast
with Garrett Williamson.
Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Hey, good day everyone, and welcome to the show. Our brand at Personal Edge Fitness is our expertise. For 20 years, every single one of our staff members has held, at minimum, a bachelor's degree in either exercise science, exercise physiology, kinesiology, sport medicine, or athletic training. And those last two fields are actually rehab fields. Now, why do we put such an importance on that education? I mean, this is an unlicensed field. Anybody can go out and get a weekend certification for personal training. Well, why do we go that extra mile? What are these degrees, and what do they mean? Well, I spent some time the other day with Dr. Shelley Holden, Associate Professor and Chair of the Department of Health and Kinesiology and Sport at the University of South Alabama, to shed a little light on this subject.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you being on, definitely. Now, before we get into this, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
My background, I'm actually from Canada. So as far as my background goes, is I was a former high school and college athlete. I was a collegiate golfer.
Oh, okay.
Started out west at Brigham Young University and decided I didn't like the winter weather there either compared to Canada. And so I transferred down to South Alabama, finished my eligibility there, and again decided I didn't like the winters. So once I got my degrees, I decided to stay down in this area.
Well, we're really glad to have you. And at Personal Edge, we definitely are, because we've enjoyed such a great relationship with you guys. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But kinesiology, that's a mouthful. Tell us what is that? We'll break that down for us.
You know, and it's certainly something that I get asked all the time, and I would say, you know, that the easiest way is just the study of movement. Our department is actually the Health, Kinesiology, and Sport department. Okay. Our largest program is the Exercise Science program, and we have a number of students in those areas that study, again, the idea of movement.
Sure. Huge difference between, I mean, people have asked me this question before about, because we say at Personal Edge we have degrees in exercise science, exercise physiology, kinesiology, sport medicine, and athletic training.
Sure.
Now, leaving sport medicine and athletic training aside, we'll talk about those in a minute. But those three, exercise science, kinesiology, exercise physiology, there's quite a bit of overrun on those two, on those three, correct?
Sure, and I would say, too, for the people out there looking at whether it be degree programs or the certifications or degree programs that their personal trainer comes from, is, you know, you have kinesiology, you have exercise physiology, some have, you know, the pre-PT, OT, those types of programs as well. And so within the realm of exercise science, there is certainly a lot of different areas, but there is absolutely the scientific overlap of many of those courses that study movement. Right,
of course, yeah. And that's what my degree was actually in exercise science. Mm-hmm. And then I want to say that kinesiology seemed to come. I mean, I got my undergraduate degree and finished in '91, and kinesiology seemed to me like it started to really kind of grab hold and become more popular. So
sure, it's kind of an umbrella term that, you know, where many probably of your listeners remember it as the old physical education.
Yes.
You know, a lot of these degrees fell under that title years ago, and so it's evolved into this idea of kinesiology. And so within our Department of Health, Kinesiology, and Sport, we do still have the traditional physical education teacher or health education teacher. Sure. But the idea is the study, like I said, of movement. And of course, like I said, our largest program is the exercise science program.
Well, and in that, okay, you study a movement. That does cover a lot.
Sure.
But what classes are they taking? What are they actually going into?
Sure. So when you look at our two tracks under our exercise science program, we have the pre-professional and the health and fitness track. Sure. They're taking courses such as exercise physiology, exercise testing and prescription, anatomy and physiology, 1 and 2. So they're doing a number of different coursework in studying the body, how it functions, how it moves, nutrition, sports nutrition, some things like that as well.
I got you. And I know that goes along. At least when I was taking, I knew that we had prerequisites for different classes, and I'm sure that our listeners know of prerequisite in different courses. But there's when I look back at that. Well, I'm glad there's no way I didn't want to take physiology until I knew something about anatomy
Sure.
and what have you. So where do y'all kind of begin? Where's the foundation?
So one of the things that we really revamped our exercise science curriculum about a year or so ago.
Right.
And so what we do is we do have prerequisites in place as well as grades, prerequisites in place. So the idea being is there's those foundational courses, the 100 and 200 level courses that are prerequisites for many of our upper division courses.
Right.
And so again, when you're looking at your anatomy and physiology, those are extremely important before you take kinesiology.
Of course.
And so we've put those checks and balances in place to better prepare our students for the professional world and the certifications or the occupations or the career path that they're going to follow.
Right. And I want to get into the certification in just a few minutes because there's quite a bit of information, a lot of clarity that's needed in understanding the certifications. But for instance, anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
I know that is there one anatomy class? Is there one or two anatomy classes? How does that?
So typically there's two anatomy and physiology courses, I would say, within the different areas within my department. As far as the majors go, the majority in the exercise science will take both anatomy and physiology courses, a 1 and a 2. Some of the health and or physical education may take one or both.
Right.
But those are pretty standard requirements when you're looking at getting a degree in kinesiology.
Sure. Well, and for those who may not know, that anatomy is basically the understanding the body itself. I mean, it goes much farther than the old Dim Bones song. The ankle bone's going to do the foot bone, the foot bone's going to do the leg bone. Okay, there's quite a bit of more. Charlie, I'm sorry. Were you going to sing a couple of bars? I didn't want to stop you.
No, I was going to encourage you not to sing.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that. So thank you for turning your mic off too. I appreciate that too. No, but anatomy it takes a lot more than that. So like the anatomy one, and I know that the graduates we've had come from your program that have become trainers or even interns for Personal Edge have taken both 1 and 2.
Yep.
All of them have. But let's say 1. How much time are they spending in that? I mean, how much long does that take?
One of the things, first off, those courses are offered campus-wide. And so one of the things I would say is the students in our program typically are taking the anatomy and physiology at some of our nursing and some of our medical students are taking. So that's something. There is a lower level anatomy, but typically our exercise science students are taking the higher level.
Right.
As far as course credit, you're looking at a 4-hour course that includes a lab.
Right.
And so typically the anatomy and physiology 1 would be a semester, which is a 16-week course, followed by anatomy and physiology 2, which again is another 16-week course for a traditional semester.
Right.
Obviously the summertime is a little bit different.
Right. Okay. Now, and that's what I'm getting at. I mean, 16 weeks just for anatomy 1, if you don't mind me calling it that.
Sure. And
then I guess is it a 200 level course for anatomy 2? Is that the 200 level course or not?
Well, and that's again the university's got a couple different selections, but usually they're both the lower level are both 100 level courses, but typically our students are taking in the 200 level.
Right.
And so they would be 200 level courses.
Okay. So then like I say, that the trainers that have come in our program from the exercise physiologists that come out of your program have had both of those, I know. And so that's 2 different 16-week just on anatomy and physiology.
Sure. Learning
the body. And that's where I find the big difference in, of course, and we're talking about education, fully understanding the body. We're doing complex movements with folks, and understanding exercises, learning exercises, reading Men's Health or something, learning exercises is one thing, but understanding what exactly is happening in the body, that's what you're talking about in physiology.
Sure. And so I think, you kind of are making me think of a few things popped
in
my head
please.
As far as credentialing. You look at our program, it's a 120-hour program.
Wow.
And so, you start looking, of course, like many former college graduates, you had a number of your general core courses, but for us, of that 120 hours, there's a number of upper level courses that again are 16 weeks apiece typically.
Sure.
We also have internship opportunities where they're having an opportunity to work out in the field in an area that interests them.
Sure.
But when you think anatomy and physiology 16 weeks, you think your exercise physiology, your kines, as well as strength and conditioning and a number of those other courses we offer. It is a lot of contact hours, learning about the body and the movements.
Right, immersed in it as opposed to just picking up different exercises, which is also important. And we'll talk about that in the next segment a little bit about learning the exercises themselves, but understanding. I love the way that y'all approach it by understanding the body and how it moves first before you're learning how to do different exercises,
Sure.
I guess you'd say, which is pretty easy. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the certifications that are out there, and because there are some that you, I believe, kind of gear your program more towards if you have somebody going in that field. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
Sure.
but I'm sure that's part of it. And also, exercise physiology, personal training, of course, is what I love to talk about. It's what I do. But there's a lot of other fields also that exercise physiologists go into. We're talking about some different aspects. I want to talk about some of the new things you've got going on over there, which
Sure.
I think I'm really excited to hear about. But before I do that, we're going to be opening up the phone lines. And if you have a question for myself or Dr. Holden, you can contact us either via text or you can call in to 251-343-0106. And the phone lines are open now. You can also comment on Facebook. We're live right now on the Personal Edge Fitness page. Excuse me. Pardon me. And we're live on the Personal Edge Fitness page. You're welcome to leave a comment there. But before the break, during the break, I should say, you were telling me about some of the things. Now, we've had a relationship with the South Alabama before. I looked it up before I got on the show for 18 years now.
Really?
Yeah, and
Wow.
we'll talk about that because I want to after you tell me some of the new things going on. I want to
Sure.
talk about that program, which is the internship program, which we find extremely valuable. But some of the new things you've got going on in the program.
Sure. So I would say one of the things that's changed is we've had some turnover in faculty in the last probably 5-6 years, and one of the things that we've recruited is some young talent who are very hands-on.
Right.
And so some of the things that we've added to some of these 16-week courses that we're talking about is practical laboratory type situations.
Oh, I
and
love it.
The ability to do VO2 max
Right.
as far as some of the testing, some of the strength and conditioning type, where the students have an opportunity to go in a weight room and learn
Yeah.
about the different lifts and to learn the proper way. And so instead of just sitting in a classroom that maybe
Right.
happened 15, 20 years ago, we're transformed our program into certainly in a teaching and an educational
Yeah.
setting, but we also have the space now, the laboratory space to do more hands-on for our students.
Oh, that's fantastic. So like we were talking in the last segment about learning, first thing we're going to do is we're going to learn the body.
Sure.
We're going to learn how the body moves. And then, I love this, now you're putting the practical side in it, where you're actually
Absolutely.
going in and teaching the different exercises. So.
Sure. And so you can kind of think about it this way. Many of us know what our blood pressure should be,
Right.
and we can talk about numbers and we can talk about it, but to actually physically take somebody's blood pressure
Right.
is a whole lot different than just discussing it. And so I think if you kind of think it in that simplistic of a manner,
Sure.
the idea is you maybe know what a 1 repetition max is, or you maybe
Right.
know what the different lift is or the different movement, but to actually physically explain it to somebody
Sure,
and
yeah,
show
absolutely.
somebody how to do it, it's a little bit different, and probably for many
Big
people a little bit
difference.
scary. So the
Exactly
more
right.
experience, like with taking blood pressure or with doing some of these fitness type
Sure.
activities or testing, you just get better at it. And that's the
Absolutely.
idea is we want to put out qualified,
Right.
qualified students.
And that was something we noticed early on, that we would get, and we're talking about years ago now. We've been in business for 20 years, but years ago we were having students come out of school, and unless they had actually spent time working out or what have you,
Sure.
they knew the anatomy and the physiology, but they really didn't know how to put it together with the
Functional
exercise.
movements.
Functional movements,
Sure.
exactly, and that's so important. I've seen it in my career. Now, I've been a personal trainer for 29 years, and I spent the longest, so much time at the very beginning trying to decriminalize Olympic lifting. Because,
Sure.
this is something that developed in the 60s. And then people started, then all of a sudden, physicians were telling people not to do it and what have you. And I don't blame them, because it was an easy progression. The people that actually developed these lifts knew how to do them.
Sure.
And then you had people watch them and try to figure it out themselves, started hurting themselves. And so Doc, after getting 115th, 24th, 105th person that came in and said I was doing this. So it hurt me. The medical community started saying, hey, quit doing that.
Sure.
And I don't really blame them. It's mainly because people didn't know how to do it. And we lost, for years, lost the ability to train people in that because people came and said, the last thing I want to do is Olympic lifting. And now, of course, it's back in vogue.
Sure.
The thing that scares me about that is so many people that are practicing it that don't have the anatomy, the physiology, and
Sure.
understand the movements. I'm so glad y'all are putting that practical part in the program.
Yeah. And I think kind of where, one of the things that we wanted to talk about too is this idea of, when you're hiring a personal trainer, what should you be looking for? And I think one of the things that our listeners need to be aware of is the idea of certifications.
Sure, absolutely.
And so one of the things, of course, our graduates come out with a degree.
Right.
But it makes them eligible with that degree to sit for certain professional certifications.
And you recommend a certification on top of the degree?
Absolutely.
I can't agree with you more. Absolutely so. Definitely so.
And so some of them, as far as the undergrad, the idea of the certified strength and conditioning coach.
Right.
And so I think, again, for the listeners is asking that question as far as if a personal trainer says they're certified, by whom?
Right.
Right. And I think that's sometimes we hear the term certification and we think all are the same, and they're certainly not.
Oh, definitely not. And also, like a degree certificate situation. In fact, when I called you within the last month, I think y'all were going through a process.
Sure.
Of accreditation.
We sure were.
And what's the accreditation body that?
So our college, of course, is a College of Education and Professional Studies. So it was actually the teacher education part of the college was going through CAPE accreditation.
Okay, yeah.
And so, and again, I think the idea of the certification too and accreditation is putting out the best product possible.
And where I was going with that is I'm actually an evaluator for an accreditation body for different schools, independent schools and colleges. The certification itself has to be an accredited certification.
Absolutely.
And there's so many of them that aren't out there that aren't. In fact, like I said, IHRSA only recognizes 17. Of those, there's a few we take, and I think you know which ones they are. I'm curious if we have the same.
So National Strength and Conditioning.
Awesome.
That's NSCA, of course, the ACSM.
Right.
Those are ones that typically our graduates will sit for. Another one that's a little bit newer is the idea ACSM actually has now a clinical exercise physiologist certification, and that's actually available with a master's degree. To have a master's degree, our students can sit for that. So that's
awesome.
even a higher level of certification if your personal trainer has that.
Yeah. And the ACSM, for those that don't know, is I call it the gold standard, and it happens to be where my certification. I have a ACSM HFI, Health Fitness Instructor, was my original designation on that. It's the American College of Sport Medicine. If I'm not wrong, there are books that you actually use. I don't know if you still use them. I'm curious.
We do.
Exercise testing and guidelines?
We do in the exercise testing and prescription. We use a number of their print material. And even in a basic 200 level nutrition course that I teach, I still look at some of the ACSM guidelines for different aspects of body composition and some of those types of things that our students are exposed to. And then nutritionally too, you have the ACSM guidelines as far as macronutrient intake, as far as your fats, carbohydrates, and proteins.
Oh, fantastic. And I appreciate you pointing that out because as I like to tell a lot of people, there are so many different certifications out there. A lot of the certifications use the books of what I call the gold standard. And I don't want to discredit by any means some of those that I know that you have a lot of experience working with, NSCA, National Strength and Conditioning Association.
No, absolutely.
And because they have one of the, I have to say it's one of the most difficult, and because of that, it's such a fantastic certification, and that's Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. We have quite a few CSCS on our staff. So I'm going to touch on this, and I don't know. I know your background is in kinesiology and also in nutrition. I want to talk about that a little bit. But the other field that we actually accept are NATA, which is National Athletic Trainers Association, and there's two designations typically as far as the degrees are concerned: sport medicine and athletic trainer, but they have an NATA BOC. And the reason we do that, and I don't want to get into this too much because we're really talking about kinesiology, but that's because that's a rehab-based field, and we see so much of that kind of rehab work.
And I would say, too, to the listeners out there, something that's kind of changed in that field in the last couple of years is the athletic trainers now are being certified at a master's degree level. The bachelor's degree programs around the country have converted to what's called an entry-level master's. So you're not going to see many you're not going to see bachelor's programs anymore. That's which again, the idea being with the NATA is their graduates will be
Yes.
higher educated. With
And that's what I
master's
like
degree.
about it is that they're constant. Like, all right, first thing, you're updating your program, and we've had a great relationship. I mean, one example I like to use a lot is one of our interns from 6 years ago is now running our facility in Eastern Shore.
Sure.
Because he's so well trained, and Joshua Gooch has got a degree from South Alabama, and but you've had that program grow even since then.
Sure.
But then you've got the agencies and institutions themselves making stricter requirements, and mainly because this is a science. It's ongoing. It's
Sure.
evolving, and this is where you're keeping up with all the information.
Absolutely, and even too, some of the things we've done is we've added some more courses. So one of the things that
wow.
we've added in the last year is for new students coming into our exercise science program, they will be required to take a second exercise physiology.
Oh,
so
wow.
we will have an
Fantastic.
exercise physiology 1 and 2, and if we go back to the calculations, those are 2 more 16-week courses
Yeah.
a piece that again will help with that foundation of knowledge.
Even further, even further educated. I love it. Even more
Yeah.
information. Now, I want to touch on a little bit of your passion, if I'm saying
Sure.
that correctly, which is sport nutrition.
Sure. So that's something as a former high school coach, an athlete, myself, collegiate athlete. It's just something I've spent a lot of time studying, and,
Right.
and I do myself and one of the other exercise science instructor or assistant professors. We teach the undergraduate nutrition course.
Fantastic.
We did just add the sport nutrition course
Awesome.
to the new
Good.
degree program for
Good.
the exercise science majors. It's a great field. It's always evolving.
Exactly.
And we certainly could do a whole segment on the do's and don'ts with nutrition as well, as far as the misinformation that's out there.
Fantastic. It looks like you just invited yourself back on another show, Shelley. I think that's fantastic. I'd love to have you. Absolutely. So, and actually, I'm glad to hear that, because there's so many people that assume that a personal trainer, knows about nutrition.
Sure.
And I hate to say this, that so many people assume that physicians do, that they've learned about nutrition. Right. And I'm glad to see now that the course is actually being taught, especially in this
Sure.
level. So, and glad to have somebody with that kind of passion involved in this program.
Well, and like I said, so for us now, the students that are coming out of that the exercise science program will have 2 courses: a basic nutrition course that many of the nursing majors take, but also now one in sports nutrition. So
great.
it's pretty exciting.
Good. Yeah, I'm sure it is. And
Yeah.
I would guess the students are eager to learn about it.
They are, and again, we've offered the course, but now with it being a requirement,
Right.
I always had a number of students as an elective, and we certainly now with it being a requirement, we'll have a lot of students in that. The same as with the exercise physiology too.
Right.
The faculty spend a lot of time planning, and
Great.
it's going to be great for the students when they graduate.
We talked about the different fields, the different things that you study, anatomy, physiology, and then you're talking about the labs that you do, and now you're getting into a much more practical part of it, not only learning the anatomy, but also knowing how to do the exercises and actually doing a lab on that, doing these 16-week labs of studying that. But there's a step that you guys take, which a lot of universities do, that I'm a huge fan of. It's actually where I learned. I actually learned my business. I actually learned. I knew all about anatomy and physiology when I got out of my master's degree and my undergraduate degree. But then, how do you actually deal with client? How do you put this into play? And you have a program that actually addresses that.
We do, and first of all, I'd like to thank our former chair, Dr. John Kovalescu, who's now the associate dean. I think you maybe came through.
Big fan of Dr. K. Yes, and fantastic.
So one of the things that he developed is a lot of partnerships around Mobile in terms of internships. The way that our internship program works is depending on the program the student's in. They may have a 9-hour internship or less. So, for example, every 3-hour college course that our students take as an internship equals 125 hours out in the field.
Wow.
And so, when you get into a student that's got a 9-hour internship, you're looking at 375 contact hours out in the field before they even graduate. And I think that's been a huge plus, I think, in terms of the relationships that we've established over the years. And again, it was something that was developed by Dr. John Kovalescu, and we're continuing with that tradition by offering, having our students out in the field in quality.
I'll tell you, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of this university. I'm born and raised in this town, and I'm a big fan of this university because it's done so much for this town. And this is just one I hate to say small because it's very significant to us,
Sure.
but just another way that you guys reach out to the community. Dr. Kowaleski, who I'm a big fan of, and but Dr. K and I started this relationship, like I say, so many years ago. He actually came to my facility.
Mm-hmm.
And I contacted him about the internship program was so valuable in my
Sure.
education that we wanted an opportunity. Since I have the most qualified staff in the Southeast on my staff, I wanted a chance for the students to learn, of
Sure.
course, from these guys. But also, I mean, we're looking for qualified trainers. We're looking for the best. And so when I contacted him about it, he said not only would he be interested in speaking to us about it, but he came down and met with us, and we started this relationship.
Sure.
So what qualifications do you have for a site being a provider or what
So
have you?
I think, again, with being chair, I have a number of different internship sites in terms of when you look at the sport management area, the
Right.
therapeutic recreation, health,
Right.
and then, of course, the idea of the personal training. And so
Right.
I think one of the things that we certainly is we have the student typically interviews the internship site to
Yes.
first of all to see if it's a good fit for them, and then from an administrative standpoint, there's contracts, as I'm sure
Right.
you remember,
Yes.
the legal contracts, but there's also typically the faculty coordinator usually meets with the interested party, or at least speaks with them as far
Right.
as trying to develop a relationship or a partnership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and we went through. I wanted you to tell our listeners that. Of course, we went through that process, and gladly, because we've had some fantastic interns come through. And I'll have to. The school does not just turn them loose. I know that for a fact because
No.
we've had over the years we've had just some fantastic interns.
Sure.
But if we ever had any challenges or an intern really wasn't sure they wanted to do that or whatever, the university worked hand in hand with us on that.
Sure.
It was really great.
And
So-
I would say, from a chair's perspective, I still have interns myself. And
Right.
I actually made some visits yesterday, with it yesterday being the first day of spring break. And
Wow.
so that's one of the things that I asked my program coordinators to do, or internship
Right.
supervisors to go out in the field.
Right.
I also like them to take pictures of,
great.
of our interns out in the field so we can use them on our webpage.
Sure.
And again, promote what they're doing and where they are. And,
Right.
and again, the idea being that we've got that experiential learning or service learning
Exactly.
further out in the field.
Well, and that's become so valuable to us that they are. I don't think we hire trainers now that haven't had that kind of experience, and it's a area that we actually look for.
Sure.
Look for trainers, of course. So, like I keep mentioning Joshua Gooch, we've got Anton Nerva who was an intern with us, and go back and look at different other people
Sure.
that we've had come through the program, but that's so valuable. They get a chance to actually work in the field, and it's an eye-opening experience for them too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because one thing reading about it, but then the different thing about putting it into play. So,
Sure.
and these guys work. Now, y'all are very strict about the fact that you don't want your interns just coming over and taking
No.
out trash and whatever. You want
Sure.
them actually doing, which we do. I remember doing a lot of that kind of stuff myself. But making sure they're getting an education.
So one of the things every intern has to do regardless of their area in the department, they have to turn into their supervisor
Right.
the idea of different things that they're going to do,
Right,
as
sure.
far as objectives.
Sure.
And the idea of the objectives that they submit are measurable. So they're
Right.
things that that they can determine, we can as supervisors determine that they actually did. And,
Right.
and so in some of the programs, they have weekly check-ins
Oh, wow.
and daily journals and logs. But the idea is they've got objectives that they're supposed to meet, and those should be negotiated with the site to make
Exactly.
sure, number one, that they can happen,
Right.
and number two, so that both parties involved know what each other wants out of the internship experience.
Exactly. Our intern director handles that when they do the interviews and sit down and talk with the students coming
Sure.
in, and on our end we make sure that they meet those. We always tell them, hey, look, if there's something you're not seeing,
Sure.
let us know. Make sure that we're covering that. So,
Yeah.
all right, now I want to get back to the nutrition though.
Okay,
Because this is
sure.
something that I know that you're a fan of, and I like the fact that you've got such a passion for that. So, but you're published.
I am. I think one of the things that many of the people in my department, we have certainly written a number of articles.
Right.
I've had the opportunity to write a small book.
Oh, wow.
I've gotten the opportunity to work with some others and write book chapters as well.
Right.
But I would say it certainly was a learning experience. It was fun.
Right. What was your book on?
So I wrote it with a gentleman from Oklahoma State University, and it was a sport nutrition book for youth coaches.
Right.
Because again, with my passion being coaching and nutrition, I think that's an avenue that sometimes, especially children,
Right.
Youth are often given misinformation from whether it be their coaches and sometimes parents who are just misinformed.
Sure.
And so we felt like we wanted to create kind of a practical book that group could use to
Right.
hopefully better educate the youth in terms of sport nutrition.
Right, okay. No, that's fantastic. But tell them where they can get the book if they're interested. Now,
Sure.
This is because we've got so many people that we speak to all the time. That I was just talking. In fact, I was just talking to a father of a swimmer, and we were talking about this very thing. So where could they get
Sure.
that?
So it's actually on Amazon.
All right.
Dr. Timothy Baghurst and myself. I'm again, Dr. Shelley Holden. It's probably about a 100-page book.
Right.
Some of the other things I worked on, of course, are textbook chapters and things like that in sports nutrition.
Sure.
We just had one come out in January, I believe, and so
Right.
I'm not quite sure. I think that one's on Amazon as well.
Good,
But
good,
it's a
good.
kind of a coaching book.
The title of it.
The latest
your book.
textbook that just came out is a coaching for performance.
Right. And the title of your book that
Is sports nutrition for youth coaches.
Great, fantastic. I appreciate you asking that, Charlie, because I want to make sure that that's a fantastic topic. We get questions about that
Sure.
all the time, and I want to make sure somebody gets a chance to do that. So now I'm going to go ahead and remind everybody that and I've got lots of witnesses here, that you already agreed to come back on, because I'd like to get a little
Sure.
deeper into that sport nutrition,
Yeah.
especially if we can talk about it as far as kids are concerned.
Yeah.
And I think that would be something that a lot of people would love to hear about.
Sure, absolutely. I think that's a market that's kind of near and dear to me, having
Sure.
been a high school coach and a club USA volleyball
Right,
club
right,
coach.
right. Oh, yeah.
And working with the United States Volleyball Association
Sure.
Nutrition coaching
Right.
education program. So,
If anybody has any questions, possibly concerning that topic, but definitely about going into exercise physiology, getting into this field, can they contact you? Is there a way they get in touch
No,
with you?
absolutely. Again, I'm Dr. Shelley Holden. I'm the chair of the Health Kinesiology and Sport Department at South Alabama. Our telephone number is 251-460-7131. That's my main office line.
Right.
And my email's just sholden@southalabama.edu, and I'd gladly take any questions that anybody's got.
I want to thank Dr. Holden for joining me, especially at such a short notice, and also thank her for the incredible relationship we've enjoyed with that particular university, having an internship program that dates back 18 years. I want to thank you also for joining us today and listening to the show. I'll remind you, if you like the show, you're a fan of it, please subscribe to it and also tell your friends about us. If you have any questions or you have any recommendations for subjects you'd like to hear us discuss, please contact me at Garrett@personaledgefitness.com or give me a call at 251-341-0927. I'd love to speak with you. Thank you for joining us, and remember, we're here to help you find your level of wellness.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.